things happen for a reason. Number one. Number two is how do you process it without having emotions involved and understand it's a process, it's a steps.
Welcome back, episode 64 of Cutoffs and Coffee. Your host, as always, James and CT from T3 Performance. Today, we have a monster of an episode with a great guy, Greg Bell. Coach Greg was a former Harlem Globetrotter and will soon be inducted into the 2024 Hall of Fame of American basketball. Greg walks us through his entire story, ups and downs, how he became to be in a role where he now runs his own basketball training company out of Cleveland. And I'll tell you, we are also excited to announce that Greg has partnered with us at T3 Performance in Beachwood to be our basketball skills coach. This is a great opportunity for athletes and parents alike to listen to what Greg preaches and what he talks about, not only skill-wise on the basketball court, but what he's talking about when it comes to the mental game. We break down how he would work with an athlete as a youth athlete, up into when they get to like high school AAU ball. And then we also talk about how he would train high-level NBA players to help them continue to raise their ceiling on the basketball court. This is an awesome conversation with Greg.
And this episode is brought to you by Sports Skill Lessons. Specifically, we're talking basketball with Coach Greg Bell, working on the fundamentals. This is not some fancy footwork drills where we're doing everything but getting better at basketball. If you work with Coach Bell, you will do the fundamentals at extremely high levels, and he loves helping athletes leveling up as an athlete, leveling up as a basketball player, but more importantly, leveling up as a human. And we talked about a lot in this episode on how those things all work together to make sure that we're performing at our best when we're on the court.
And if you like what we're doing here on Cutoffs and Coffee, please do us a favor. It helps us out a lot. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify and Apple or wherever you hear your podcasts so you stay updated on the newest drops. These podcasts are going to come out every Wednesday moving forward. If you have people that you'd love for us to talk to and get involved, reach out to us. Send us Instagram messages or comment on the videos on YouTube, wherever you're listening or watching, and we will follow up and try to get the people who you want to hear on the podcast here on Cutoffs and Coffee. So here we go, episode 64 with Greg Bell. Enjoy. Coach Greg Bell, welcome to Cutoffs and Coffee. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're great, man. We're very excited for this conversation. Very happy to have you. We are, ladies and gentlemen, amongst a legend here. Greg is getting inducted into the Hall of Fame pretty soon. Why don't you tell some people about the Hall of Fame induction?
Yeah, it's the 2024, I'm trying to get it right, Hall of Fame induction ceremony for American Basketball Hall of Fame, which is going to be held Sunday, June 30th at the Athletics Center Arena in Oakland University, Rochester, Michigan. So I'm going in with some heavy hitters, Larry Bird and Coach Huggins, Coach Mackey, Brad Sellers, Samika Randall, Campy Russell, just to name a few. And even Akron's head coach, the coach LeBron James, he's getting inducted that day. So I'm gonna be rubbing elbows with some heavy hitters. Bobby Knight. I mean, it's just a exciting opportunity, and it's a blessing to still get your flowers at 59 when you fat and retired and married with kids.
Yeah, and so if this doesn't get you juiced for the information this guy is gonna share on this podcast, I don't know what does. Greg, outside of the Hall of Fame stuff, we want to know a little bit more about you that we can't find from like a Google or an Instagram search that the audience might like to hear about you.
Yeah, product out of East Cleveland, Ohio. Went to Shaw High School, graduated in 1983. Had a stellar high school career. I ended up receiving the Nate Thurman Award, which is like a Heisman Trophy here in Ohio, and that's before they created the big national sporting event they have now. But it was held back then. It was held at the Cleveland Touchdown Club. For you guys that some folks may know that's listening, some people never heard of it. But then I ended up going to junior college in Burlington, Iowa for 2 years and played small forward, big guard, kind of much all over the place. Me and my roommate, little quick story, Darius Garland, me and his dad played together in college, junior college, and then we transferred together at Southwest Missouri State. So I've been knowing Winston Garland since 17, and I remember holding Darius Garland in my hands, and then to watch him get drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers and to see him play, it's a beautiful thing. But going back to me, I went to junior college for 2 years there, had a successful, stellar career, and then from there transferred to Southwest Missouri State in Springfield, Missouri, which is now Missouri State University. Played for the legend Coach Charlie Spoonhour, rest in peace. He passed away, but ended up going there, and then we had some great careers there. In '86, we ended up going to the NIT. The year that Cleveland State went to the Sweet 16, Southwest, we went to the Final 8 and lost to Florida with Vernon Maxwell and Andre Moten. We were a game from going to the Final Four NIT in New York. So, just had a great career there. I ended up becoming a Hall of Fame candidate there in 1995, I want to say. And then from there, the dream that every kid wants to have, sit in the NBA draft and you sit there and watch it and you watch it and you seeing your teammate, your roommate wants to get drafted, and then you watching and it gets to that last name and it wasn't named Greg Bell. So, reality kicks in and it settles and it kind of hurts, but it also lets you understand that it's important. When you get that scholarship, you got to take care of that education. It's free. So I ended up, graduating with recreation major with a minor in public relations. So going back to the basketball side, I ended up, I didn't get drafted. So I got a phone call from the Sacramento Kings, got invited to their camp as an unrestricted free agent and undrafted free agent. So did well in the rookie camp, but coming from Southwest Missouri State, you're in the room with guys that went to Michigan, Syracuse, and you're talking the early 80s, late 80s, where it was competition from high school, college, all that, the Big East and all that, and good talent, but your name, you're a small Division I school. So how that goes, the politics, you learn how to play with that, and what happened, what was interesting about that, you're like, man, a lot of these guys not fundamentally sound as well as I thought. I knew I was fundamentally sound because I played for three great coaches. But I got released. And my agent ended up giving me a job. I got signed to go play in Europe. I played in Amsterdam for 3 years. So, just kind of breaking down how the reality sets back in and you learn how to accept humiliation at a young age. So when you didn't get drafted, you end up going overseas to play. So I was in Amsterdam, played for a team called Amighty, which is right outside of Amsterdam. But that was a great life to live as a young kid. So then what happens? I ended up with some broken bones underneath my meniscus. At that time over there, you're talking 1987, 89, I'm sorry, about 89, arthroscopic surgery wasn't heard of. So they were talking about, hey, we're gonna cut you open, clean it out, stitch you, and put you in the cast. And I'm like, that doesn't sound too well. But at the same time, Cleveland Clinic here in Cleveland, Ohio, people was walking in and then coming right out with no problem. So I ended up leaving, coming back to Cleveland, went in, got my procedure done. I was up and running within 3 days. So I just was keeping myself in shape. And my agent's like, let's just kind of stay positive and see what we can put out there. During that time, the IBA league started. It was a 6'5" and under league. And I was a territorial #1 draft pick out of Springfield, Missouri for Fresno Flames. along with other, it was like 20 teams. It was like 10 on the East Coast, 10 on the West Coast. And, you know, everything was going well, contract signed. And so everybody goes to camp, everything's going well. Then the league folded. Another humiliation shot. You know, like, wow, what is going on with this? So they ended up with 4 teams on the West Coast, 4 teams on the East Coast. So come back home. Well, I went back to school just to pack up some stuff and get it shipped back home. And then from there, my agent called and said, hey, I got a surprise for you. The Harlem Globetrotters want to invite you out to camp. Took that shot, went out to Orlando, and I just took a toothbrush and some clean underwear, as your parents say. Don't ever go, you know, don't ever get yourself in trouble and have to go to the hospital without clean underwear. So make a long story short, I ended up making the team, and I played from 1990 to 92. I got to see over 90 different countries. And then here's another humiliation shot, and I'll close that out with this. Played 2 years with them. The owner at the time owned Holiday on Ice, Ice Capades, the Harlem Globetrotters, and a circus. Well, the Globetrotters was carrying the torch for years. And you guys might have been old at this time. You remember when Dorothy Hamilton came out of retirement? She signed a $3.2 million contract for Ice Capades to try to boost everything in the income and the revenue, and it wasn't successful. So guess what happens? The owner at that time filed Chapter 11. Wow, another, you know, stroke in the back, like, man, what is going on? You know, but this guy talking, and I understood that. So I ended up, you know, by playing 2 years, they said anybody that played 2 years and under will not be invited to continue under this new ownership. So reality set in again. At a 2-year-old, me and my fiance was engaged, and ended up joining, you know, going into the Cleveland Plain Dealer, looking at some jobs, and ended up with a recreation position for the YMCA Greater Cleveland. And from that point on, I just kind of got the message what God was sending me. You're not going to be the next Clark Kellogg or Oakley to come out of Cleveland. I'm going to send you a different direction, and you're going to channel your energy and your message to the children. So that's how all that came about. And then now I want to reverse it, how I came into training and started my own company. And that's going through all those trials and tribulations and successes, good, bad, or differences. I did my internship at Springfield YMCA, Family YMCA. So I was working, teaching, you know, basic basketball. That was in '87. Left there when I signed with the European team in Amsterdam. Converse was our contract, and guess what we're doing? We were going outside of Amsterdam to all the small little towns, training kids and teaching basketball. So that was always on the shoulders. And then once the Globetrotters career, I ended with my Globetrotter career, I ended up coming back home and coaching at my alma mater. Boys varsity assistant coach for 3 years, and then I switched over to girls varsity assistant coach for 3 years. So what was I doing? Coaching, teaching, and training. So then from there, you know, kind of moved around from the YMCA nonprofit, 30 years experience, went to the corporate level, said, let me try the government side. So I ended up going out to Medina and became the rec director for the Medina Community Rec Center. And that was in the early 90s, late 90s, and ended up, you know, again, putting my recreational hat on and again, going out instructing and training. At that time, I was starting to build up my little clientele at the time, running my camps, running my clinics, training. And then from there, I ended up saying, let me come back home to my city where I grew up in East Cleveland. I ended up becoming the Parks and Rec director from 2008 to 2011. That opened up the doors more to do more training, providing clients, bringing in, you know, just teaching and teaching and teaching and mentoring and mentoring and mentoring. So from there, I ended up leaving the nonprofit sector, went back to work for the Salvation Army. We built a brand new Salvation Army in East Cleveland. I became the rec coordinator, still doing the programs. And then when COVID hit, I said, I'm gonna step out in faith and just start my own LLC. And sure enough, it's took off. For some people, it kind of crashed and burned because that was something nobody never experienced before when you deal with COVID. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And here I am sitting here, be part of the TP3 family, and I'm excited about that, to be able to lead and help, launch and build what's going on the East Side at the Bursky Center. Did I say it right?
Drzezinski, close. It took me 8 or 9 months to get that down.
Right. So it's going to take me about another month to say it right. So,
yeah.
but that's it. And that's the story I'm sticking with. And it's going to be part of my book. And I'm excited. Eventually, when that part comes out, I think about a year, I'm going to launch a book. And it's going to be more interesting stories in it, because, good, bad, or indifference. But when you a man of faith, you understand, you don't get depressed and stressed or frustrated because something didn't go right, in your career. You take that energy and turn it in something positive and process it and understand it and use it to be a tool to go out when you're talking to kids every day, and not just kids, coaches, whomever, corporate events and things like that. Use that to turn, and it helps a lot of folks that's listened. And I've mentored multiple people, and I'm just excited about it.
And we're definitely excited to have you be part of the T3 family and our coaching community. And, thank you so much for sharing that story with us, and letting us get to know your background. One thing that sticks out about your story, and this shows up in other former athletes that we've interviewed, is you mentioned a couple times like a humiliation aspect, right? Or some type of failure. And that's how you view it. But from the outside looking in, you had an incredibly successful basketball career.
Absolutely.
And there are other athletes who might not even get out of junior high basketball, and they might look back on their basketball career thinking they were the best basketball player ever. So I always just find that fascinating, being a former athlete myself, how we are often our biggest self-critic. In your coaching, now that you've fully transitioned and you're doing your thing, you're helping kids all over Cleveland get better at basketball. Did you have any paradigm shifting moments as you started working with the kids that we see today? And how do we tap into their inner strengths and inner powers that you can now help them learn those fundamentals? Was there any kind of aha moment of you coaching and reaching those kids that you're like, okay, this is it. This is what I need to be doing?
Right. And what's interesting to say that, because when I reflect back, when folks say, hey, you're a tweener, you're 6'5", you as you get at every level, you want to you might want to be a shooting guard. But I can defend 1 through 5, kind of like PJ Tucker. See, the PJ Tucker today was a guy like myself and many other players that was undersized, but on that checklist, can he shoot the jump shot 17 feet and out? And, the aha moments, and people say, hey, you need to work on your shots. You need the off-season regimen. You need to go and train. You need to do this and do that. And, at that time, we didn't have all of the technology that's going on today. So when you talk to the kids and teens and college kids and even a few, European, kids that you train, you just want to get them to understand mentally things happen for a reason. Number one. Number two is, how do you process it without having emotions involved, and understand it's a process. It's a steps you have to go through and follow and stay consistent to become a better basketball player. Then you got to understand, I'm probably going to be, I may be, and I can guarantee and bet that I'm probably the most humbling former professional athletes you guys will ever meet. And I thank my parents for, my family for putting me in that position and getting me prepared for life after basketball, because you see what happens with the kids, once they lose interest, or today in school today, a lot of coaches, don't have the pedigree because of the system. We don't let, teachers first, which, then it's a union situation. So if there's a job open for any sport, a guy or a girl may be available, maybe a great coach could come into a district to coach. But if you're not in the teaching system or you're not part of the union, you can't get in. So a lot of teachers that looks at the situation, say, "Oh man, it's an extra $8,000 or $10,000 or $12,000 I could put on my salary to coach. So I'm just gonna grab the uniforms, wash them, throw them out, talking the basics about it, and that's it, without no development in practice. So these kids that's going to middle school that has success but don't have development mentally and physically, lose interest. So that kind of flares them out because it's, you're talking about peer pressure for today's society. You can be on the middle of the tracks and be a well-off athlete, but go the wrong direction, and boom, career's over. Or you could be on the middle of the tracks and go this direction and have success and become a coach or a trainer or someone that's sitting, like we're sitting here talking to each other about. But to answer your question, it's the ahas that come out every day, and you say, man, if I'd have did this, wow, where would I be? But then you put the energy right back into your client that you're teaching. Hey, you got to give me another 10 shots. You need to make 10 shots. But coach, I can't. That's your mental side talking. But let's go out here and you got to make 10 shots. I don't care what his shots are. They could be layups. That's 10 shots. You don't have to necessarily shoot threes, which we see today in the NBA, today in college, today in high school, where a guard can penetrate and have a lane wide open and kick it out to somebody that's got two people covering them to watch them take that three-point shot.
Greg, so for everybody watching on YouTube, you can see in the background, you've got a sign that says "Train with me," and it says "Fundamental Basketball Skills," and then "Fun" is in all caps. And this is one of the first things that stuck out to me when we first sat down and had a conversation. We always talk about in training how one of the most important things is to make training fun. We want youth athletes, especially, to just fall in love with the process and to fall in love with training. And we feel like a lot of times we see in a team training setting, coaches want to almost coach with fear instead of with fun. If you don't do this, you are punished. Well, you have it in the name of your company. It says fundamentals. Fun is in all caps. Explain to us what that means to you and why you think that part of the game is so important.
Well, I mean, if you love the sport, keep it fun. And absorb everything that's being taught to you, absorb everything that you're learning and put it in your toolbox, because you never know when you never know when that moment comes where the game might be tied, no time on the clock. I'm just using a basketball picture, and I always do it with my kids. The game's tied, scorekeeper went over, basket was good. Now, no time on the clock, you're on the road, possibly to win this game. So it's that moment. Live in that moment and have fun. Prepare yourself and go up there and smile. And if you make it, you win. If you miss it, it's overtime. So you run back to your huddles, right? And with a smile and not being worried or being booed, or even if you lost the game, enjoy what God gave you and use it to your fullest, to the max, because you never know what it's going to do for you if you don't use it to the max. If you use it to the max, you're going to help out yourself, your family. You'll be able to have pride in whatever school you went to, your community, and it's it's all about what they say, the word the bag. You look at all the professionals today, a lot of them are very athletic. It's that AAU family, the AAU world that's coming into the NBA, and we see it, and people are like, oh man, the game, why they don't do this? Why don't do that? That's not the way the game is taught today. So you when NBA win Euro, they stretch forward. So your 7-footers, you remember when we grew up, a 7-footer, you was underneath the basket, period. And guards was guards, and the offense went through your big man, and then the cuts off that, and you get a layup and things like that. So keep it fun. No matter what sport you're playing, keep it fun and enjoy it, because it won't last forever. And, and you can reflect back and laugh. It's like, man, I remember this, I remember that, but you're smiling about it versus frowning about it. I remember what made me create this, my senior year in high school, we were 24-0, #1 in the state of Ohio. We played St. Joe. Kevin Edwards was a junior at the time, and we lose to St. Joe's. It was 14. It was us, Shaw High School, St. Joe, Medina. I can't think of the fourth team. It was down at Kent State. So we lose to Joe's. And that I wasn't happy at all, because that's the only missing thing on my resume right now, state championship in high school. However, it lasted for about a month, and then my dad, a couple of jabs, soft jabs, like, man, get that out your system and man up, and you had a great career and be happy about it. But then the next day, Joe's losing Medina by 20 points. I'm like, man, we could have got that and did this, but in all fun. To this day, when you run into a guy, or Coach Moran, who coached against us, he's always like, we strategized to beat you guys. It was one of them games where nothing was falling, So, and you guys played the sports, you know how that goes. Nothing works, and you might have did something you shouldn't have did. Get your rest at night for the game or whatever, or eat something wrong, and it's just not functioning with your body. But fun is so important. That was something that kind of I put in there, and I'm glad you recognize that, and a lot of folks recognize that.
Yeah, that's great. I want to kind of take this conversation into let's say like 3 segments, right? So we've talked about kind of that like higher level AAU basketball. We've talked about professional basketball a little bit. Let's back up and start talking about youth training. As far as youth training goes, where do you feel your skill set best helps the youth athlete, from the athlete who's just getting into the sport of basketball and trying to actually enjoy it and have some fun with it, whether, their parents want them to play or they want to play. Let's start with that youth athlete. So if you're working with youth athletes, what are some of your focuses? What are some of the things that you really want to work on with them as far as the fundamentals go, that you feel like you bring a lot of your knowledge and personality to help with that?
Right. Now, 3 things I focus on: spacing, footwork, and balance. Spacing, footwork, and balance. And I train as young as 5-year-old kids, and once you teach the spacing and the footwork and balance, because you have a left foot and a right foot, but if you go on, if you lay the ball up on the right side, is it right left to finish, or is it left right to finish? Same thing on the left side. You can also jab with both feet. You don't always have to learn to jab, one way, and then here you are in high school. You don't even know that you can jab going left or jab going right out of your triple threat position. So keeping the game simple. Nothing's changed as you get older. Once you get all of the fundamentals, that's in your mind. It's in your mind. It's never going to leave. Now, as you get stronger, your handles get quicker. The creativity, the hot dog with the ketchup and the mustard and the relish and the onions comes along, but be fundamentally sound first, and that's the way the Euro ball goes. I mean, they have academies. They start K through 3rd, 4th through 6th, 7th through 8th, 9th through 12th basketball, or whatever sport it is, but we're honing in on basketball. So K through 3rd, once I get my footwork, spacing, and balance together, everything else is going to come to light. Your off-season regimen, lifting weights, cardio, and everything. When you get to that elementary level, same thing. It's just getting stronger. But now we can put the X and O's in when you get to middle school. So when you become a high school player, it's less stress on the coach, because when some kids that make the team or don't make the team, or let's say the kids that make the team still can't lay the ball up off the left foot or left right foot. So you spend 2 hours, you got 2 hours of practice. You probably have to spend an hour out of your 2 hours without putting X and O's in, just to get them up to par, based on the talent that you have in your school or whoever made the team. You might, and then you got to take that best player to teach them how to be a leader by letting them express themselves by being a mentor to the kid that's never played. And then that kid that's never played, you got to balance them to become the best players. So they cross and paths, but they end up meeting together, and that's the success that you want to see out of your clients when they do make their team, if they make their scholastic team or their rec team or their AAU team or travel team, and that's what I love. I love training second and third tier kids that's interested, want to learn. That's important because they're going to listen. You know, too many one-tier kids got too much around them. You know, the parents, the friends, the families, the coaches, telling them what they already are. And sometimes I always question, you know, a kid like, how you know you're in the top 300 as a freshman in the state of Ohio? Who ranks that? You follow what I'm saying? And then so that pressure's put on that kid. And if you're not following some and you go play in his AAU and you get destroyed, what is that telling that kid mentally? Now this kid like, oh, I ain't who I am. I thought I was because everybody's been telling me this. But if you're not putting the work in and learning, that's the thing that makes you cringe and say, okay, bring that kid to me so we can get them better. But I can't have training a client and the parent is watching and then want to say something totally opposite of what you're trying to teach them. That happens a lot. And it kind of hurts because, you know, college recruiters come in, it's their character as an athlete. Not your popularity, it's your character. You know, if you come off the field, snatching your helmet off, football helmet off on a play, you know, keep your frustrations inside. Hold your helmet, go to the sidelines and just, you know, scream or do what you got to do, but don't do all of the stuff that makes them say, oh, no, I don't want to take James because James got an attitude. Same thing in basketball. Don't snatch your jersey off or after the game or during the game because you got pulled out. I mean, it's the little stuff that makes you a better player. Hope that answers your question.
And I think there's so many life lessons just in that last 30 seconds that we were talking about in terms of when we are so tied to that identity as a ninth grader who is in the top 300, all of a sudden that replaces the identity of the actual kid and what they care
Yes.
about more than just basketball.
Yes.
And it's so nice to hear that you just talk about like being the best version of yourself, right? Working with those kids that are willing to learn and then seeing those light bulb moments happen when those kids start competing at a higher level when they weren't supposed to because they're not on some list. And that's what's so exciting about what we do in the performance world, because those are our favorite athletes to work with.
Right.
You know, because we know they might not end up having the basketball career you did past college, right? Most likely they won't. But what kind of person will they become when it is time to put a, you know, a collared shirt on and a tie and go to work, right? When their boss when their boss yells at them, are they going to slam their phone down on the desk and throw a fit? No, they're going to learn. They're going to react. They're going to respond appropriately in the real world. And I think that's what, at the end of the day, sports is all about is just setting us up for success down the road. And we had a great episode 2 episodes ago talking a lot about this, and there's so many correlations between those episodes. So I know, CT, you were talking about 3 different sections, right? I got one more question in this youth development, because this is probably a hot topic. Kids are getting pulled at the, you know, let's call it like 10 to 12 to 14. They're getting pulled by this team, then to go play for this team, and then to have this practice and then work with this coach and just do all of these things. What should it look like for a young athlete learning a sport? What's the best practice for a basketball player who's trying to really improve? Is it working out 8 days a week with 8 different coaches?
That's a good question, you know, because my grandson is actually going through what you just said. He's 12 and he is a hell of an athlete. Baseball, football, and basketball. And, you know, we're really trying to keep him leveled and balanced. You know, where's your interest at? Because we don't want to burn you out. Where's your interest at? We don't want to burn you out. So understand, 2 sports cross over, you know, and understand you're the only baseball player out of your core of 9 peers that you hang out with in basketball, that play football together on the football on the gridiron, but you're the only kid to play baseball. So if it's a function or a special event or a party or a sleepover, guess what? You can't pout about that because you got to go play baseball. It's a commitment. It's a commitment, and understand that the financial side of the commitment. It's no pressure because it's up to you. And a lot of we tried to get East Cleveland baseball off the ground when I was Parks and Rec director, and out of the East Cleveland Chiefs and the PAL program, the parents was like, no, my kid's gonna play football. How do you know that at that age? How do you really know that your kid's gonna want to play football? So we bought the pitch, hit, and run in the national program. Where they learn how to hit, pitch, and run. So you can't coach speed. Everybody's speed is speed, but once you learn the sport, you're on your way. So there's two things. So the grandson, we keeping him balanced on that question you said, but then when you try to introduce another sport to a community, it's a whole different now football, and then you see the kid that don't get on the field out of all those players. But then here's an opportunity. Hey, baseball, do you understand the quickness of how you can move up the chains and the ladders and make good money and get a free education, and how a lot of colleges are looking to recruit minority kids to play baseball? It's a lost art. We see it. What is the Major League Baseball talking about right now? It's a lot of Americans playing it no more.
Right.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you got these baseball fields and not utilizing them or educating and bringing in the people, the coaches and the trainers to run some clinics or camps, how would you know if a child can play the game or what sport they may be interested in and loving to play?
Yeah, absolutely. Having that athlete first mindset, the
Yeah.
maybe not even the athlete first, the kid first
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah, it's the pressures of the parent. Don't live in your kid's world. What you did is what you did. Be the supporter. One of the other things I talk to with my clients, the kids that make the team, I tell the parents, I say, you know what, let your child get in the car. Let them get in the car and woosah down and ride, and then let them talk to you what they think they could have did better, or what they should have done better, or what happened to or venting about a team or a coach before you just say, you know what, man, you had an opportunity to do this and you didn't do that. What is going on? And and the car ain't even started. You done turned your head, looking back at your child, and looking at a mirror. It's amazing and crazy, and how dangerous it is with parents when it comes to youth sports. Period.
Gosh, yeah, youth sports is tough. Again, James had mentioned that conversation we had a couple episodes ago. A lot of similar, correlations between what you're saying and what he was saying. Let's Greg move on to, kind of that a little higher level basketball athlete, right? So once we've got the athlete who's figured out the spacing and the footwork and the balance, you've been working with him for a while, and maybe let's say they make like their high school team, they're playing AAU, they're playing kind of all year round, right? And they're at that next level of their skill expression. What do we do now as coaches, you specifically as a coach, when you're working with the athlete who has those fundamentals, right, but then wants to continue to build on their skill set? How would we take, and what would be the difference between those athletes, right, we're again middle school into early high school, to then when they transition to where, okay, we got the requisite strength that we need, we've got the balance, we've got the footwork and the spacing. What's kind of the next progression look like for the athletes?
So, good question. When it comes to AAU, I think a child should play a year on, take a year off, because you gotta find out where your bar is. So you just say you playing on this year's team, and you're not getting any development, you're not getting any training. You just tennis shoes off, tennis shoes on, tennis shoes off, tennis shoes on, Crocs, slides, whatever they call them, just constantly playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fast, games, running clock, traveling different states, and you might run into that one player that they're talking about that's freshman like you, and hey, it's the next up and coming so and so. Okay, you had that season out. That season's going now. Progressively, take the season off and come back. Let's continue to work on your space and footwork and your balance. Now let's bring the personal training piece into this. Let's bring the strength and conditioning piece into this. Let's bring the cardio piece into this. So now you're almost like the cartoon Popeye. You know, when you take the spinach, so now you're mentally you're stronger, physically you're stronger. Now let's go back and see where you at. Does your bar go higher? Did it go lower? And most likely it should go higher because you gain a little bit more, into what you already have. So for that high level, so that off-season regimen, 5,000 shots, a day or whatever, and then Google the player that you might idolize that play in the league. Don't let Steph Curry or these 3-point shooters, ESPN, fool you that they don't miss shots. They're gonna show you the shots they made, but go to the shot chart and see how many shots they miss. How many shots they take to get that amount of shots or the amount of points. I mean, it's the little stuff. And again, that's just me, and I think that's where you put your progression in. Okay, let's watch some video. If I'm available as a trainer, let me, see your video. Or if you're playing local or happen to be somewhere where I'm at, come watch you play. Then I can sit there and say, you know what? You rebounded. You went down you rebounded on the left-hand side. You went all the way down with your left hand and finished with your right hand. That's not what we've been training you to do. What's wrong with going completely left all the way down and finish with your left or dunking with your left? That's mental. So on that high level player, and it's a lot of them like that. And you see it a lot in today's games. You're gonna see it tonight. When this Dallas and Boston matchup start. And it's just like, oh man. And I guarantee you somebody that trains that guy say, man, there's a few things you could have did better. And it's telling me mentally you're afraid to get underneath Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's a great ball handler, but it's going to be interesting to watch White and the other guard, two good defenders, nice size and strong, how they can get up on Luka and Kyrie. They're solid defenders. White and I can't think his name, Boston, the other guard, came from Milwaukee. But I'm just saying, that's going to be a good comparison to see because high-level players, hey, I accept my role as a defender, and I want to be a defending stopper. So progressively going back to that high-level player, take a year off and condition yourself to become better and stronger and faster. And we still putting the space and footwork and balance in there. So you just now that next AAU season and your basketball season, we should see a wow versus saying, you know what, you're the same.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't heard somebody say it like you did there, Greg. Like go ahead, play a year, but then take a year off. I think there's so many benefits from having an off season. And now it feels like athletes never really have a true off season. In my mind, when you're playing, you're expressing your athletic ability at its ceiling, at its highest level. At least that's the idea, right? That you've prepared enough to be able to express that athleticism at your highest ability. If you continue to train there, there's little room to be able to make progress in your game. Right.
Yes.
But a lot of people want to keep coming up, and it happens in soccer all the time. A lot of times in basketball too. Yeah. It seems like every weekend is the biggest tournament of the year.
Yes.
Right now,
yes.
You're having these conversations and you're like, well, I thought last weekend was the biggest. Well, no, this one, has this team and this team. And that's so interesting that you say, take the year off, because what that does is allow the athlete to get bigger, stronger, faster, more resilient, and then increase that ceiling of skill expression. Now, after that whole year off, you come back after a full, actual, true off season where you've had a good strength and conditioning program, hopefully, right? You've got your conditioning up, you've changed, you've now matured as an athlete and as a human being. And now your ceiling is no longer here, what you're playing at. Now you can any day play at that same level that you were when you were a year before expressing your athleticism to the fullest. But now give us that opportunity to build up an entire offseason so that skill expression can be even that much higher. I love how you said it that way. And I think that's a big thing that people need to hear.
And and then the missing piece is those injuries, that you can't heal, or, because you don't have that strength and conditioning to prevent the injury. You're just playing, you turn your ankle, you all right? Yeah, I'm gonna put some ice on the trainer, say you're good to go. You know what that's all about. Hey, let them play, let them play. So now when your season comes around for basketball after AAU, you got a hamstring or a knee injury or ankle injury that what's more important? Scholastics, right? You're not even ready and healthy mentally to even go into conditioning, tryouts, and all that. So it's the little stuff. So that's what I meant by as far as progression. You got to have a chart. You got to have a space. You got to have time to calm your body down, calm your mind down, and get into some strength and conditioning. The thing that you guys do.
And I love using analogies to kind of help, bring this to parents in a way they can understand it. So I look at it as like, okay, so if we take a freshman and we give them a calculus test and they get a C, and the parents are like, oh, that's so amazing, they got a C, they're only a freshman on the calculus test. And then you give them the test again a week later, and then again a week later, and then again a week later, but you never stop to look at what did they get wrong on the test and what are we going to do to study for the next test. They just keep taking tests over and over again. And it is kind of like insane when you think about it that way, because you gotta be able to have that debrief, the needs analysis, the reflection to be able to attack an off season with intention, and then find the people who are experts in that area. Because it might be finding a fundamental basketball skills coach who's really going to, take you from that C to a B. And then you're going to still work with that guy plus a strength and conditioning coach who's an expert. And now they're going to help that physical aspect of the game, take that from a B to an A. And then you show up next year and you're a totally different athlete. I don't think people realize that a year really isn't that long amount of a time, and how much change can happen in a year just by doing those right things instead of just taking the test every weekend over and over again.
Right. I had a couple of kids that I trained, I'm not going to say the high school they attended, so came in and said, my jump shot needs to improve. But then, you don't question the coaches, but the coaches take them away from what they need to, what you train them to do offensively, and got them playing power forward without using their jump shot, because they can jump and they're strong and all that. Prepare this kid for the next level. He may have an opportunity to go play Division 1, 2, 3, junior college, NAIA. Prepare them for that and understand your personnel, because you still can win with your players you got. But it's about you, but it's about that kid. And is that kid, did you tell this kid to say, off season, I need you to get stronger, upper body wise? Do you have anybody you can refer them to? Because most of the time the coaches don't, because it's just, boom, AAU. Now, let's call T3 and see if we can, or let me walk up and introduce myself as a coach of T3 and see how we can get T3 to help us with some development, even if you don't have the funds, but, find a way to raise the money or see what T3 can offer them, offer you to make things better. And that's another caveat that just don't sit right. So now I don't like taking parents paying me if they're not understanding what this is about. First of all, progressively is a progression. Well, why is my kid learning this? Well, your kid's still having problems, with the crossover or between the legs or around the back. I'm not saying go behind the back, around the back, which requires the proper footwork. And going back to you with the C and the calculus and all that, I'm not going to progress him or her until that gets better, because that's the mindset that they need to have when they get in your car and go home. That's the mindset they need to have when they're on that court running up and down 94 feet So it'll make you feel better because she or he feels better.
Yeah, let's take that to now that kind of like elite level basketball player, right? So we have the fundamentals, we have the requisite strength, we have the conditioning program, and then now we're playing at a high level college, and we're playing. You and I've talked a little bit about just the Cavs roster in general when they were still in the playoffs. We talked about some. We specifically were talking about Evan Mobley, I believe, right? Where we talked about, what he can do to improve his game. And now this isn't like a shot at him or any of the coaches, but you and your professional background, like things that you've seen that you can just sit down and watch the game and say, oh man, he needs some help with this. He could do this. So we're trying to kind of tie up everything for everybody who's listening from, okay, we need to start somewhere. And this is a goal, right? You'd like to be on the basketball court at Rocket Mortgage, playing in front of thousands of people at the professional level. We've got to take this long process, progressive process, to build up to this situation. But even when we get put in this position, there are still things that we can improve on. So what are some of those things, specifically, if you even want to talk about what you think, Evan Mobley can improve on, but then also, let's just look at that level of athlete in general. What are some things that you do as a coach to help them progress even when they're playing at the highest level?
So now, highest level, I'm going right back to those 3 threes: footwork, spacing, and balance. It doesn't change no matter what level you're on. Are you willing, making millions of dollars, to invest in becoming a better player on and beyond? Going back to Evan Mobley, they had Antonio Lane when Evan Mobley got drafted. He was a big man that played for Duke. Coach K, fundamentally sound. You saw Evan Mobley expanding. You saw him growing. The play-in, and then Antonio Lang leaves. He's been gone for 2 years. So now you don't have no big man developing someone that, everybody progresses differently. Allen came from Brooklyn. He's already a beast in the dog, jumping, dunking, blocking shots. So, but Mobley coming from college, 2 different levels. But I want to circle around to Dallas tonight. Lively, and they're bigs. Gassford, guess who their assistant coach is training him? Tyson Chandler. I'm gonna say it again, Tyson Chandler. A solid center, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That played in the league. Wasn't a high scoring center, but he defensive, rebound, block shots, footwork, spacing, and balance on the defensive side. Everything in on the offensive side. So now that's why you see Lively, who's a rookie, being trained under and developed with Tyson Chandler. Gassford, that came from Chicago and Detroit. He came from 2 non-winning programs, so everybody forgot about him. He was a number 1 draft pick for Chicago. Look what he's doing with Dallas, because you got Tyson Chandler, as part of your coaching staff. And I don't question coaches, but you only, as a head coach, you're only good as your assistants. You're great as your assistant. So when you look at football, the Belichick's and the Pat Rileys, remember how many people wanted to fire the coach from Miami? Fire him. Pat Riley, I'm not firing this guy. You come in shape and be in shape, because this is professional basketball. If you want this contract, you can make this team. You come in shape, you can make this team. You come fundamentally sound, you can make this team. And I'm sure that's for everyone, but again, to answer your question, those 3 key words, that's just what I focus on. A lot of other trainers focus on different things, but imagine if Mobley had better footwork, better balance, and just strength and spacing. How much better would he be? And he was already there, and he still is, but when you lose a piece that inside that nobody knows, sometimes that can hamper a player. Then Donovan Mitchell comes in, so now the focus is on 2 small guards and shooters, which means, okay, I'm not touching the ball enough, I'm not getting enough shots, but I'm still showing you I can block the shots, I can dunk the ball, I can, do those things. But and strength and conditioning. You know, the ankle twisting and, you know, I mean, you playing with injuries. If you ain't healing yourself, something's not right. You know, and that's all I'm saying. Not to point finger at nobody, because everybody has their own way of coaching and developing.
Greg,
But
what
on
are
that
some things
high end, again, on that high end level, again, keep the game simple. That's my tagline: fundamental basketball. You still need to just be able to, you know, now you're gonna instead of jabbing left and right, you're gonna jab forward now. We're gonna jab backwards. You know, with the triple threat: Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, LeBron James. That triple threat is the most dangerous play ever. And all you need is that spacing to get blow by a person to score. And same thing defensively. All you need is that space to stop a scorer from blowing by you and scoring.
Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of getting towards the end of this and running low on time. Have a couple more questions for you, but what's something that you see or multiple things that you see at that level that you think are missing in today's game that are different from when you played? You know, if you were talking in front of NBA coaches and you said, "Hey, I'd really like to see the game go in this direction," or something like that. Like, do you feel that though when you're watching games that there are things missing from the training and from the information side?
I think it's more the offensive sets that they run. You know, everything, you know your personnel. I mean, last year it worked this way. This year you got to change this because, you know, other teams are saying, okay, I know what they're going to do. Let's take Denver Nuggets, for example. I mean, Jokic's game stayed the same. Couldn't stop him. Unfortunately, the perimeter game shut down. They weren't hitting a lot of shots. So now what do? You got to make some adjustments, and you could have made some subs differently. Minnesota, same thing. You know, you got two bigs, but isn't necessary to play with two bigs. The only team that had success with two bigs was Bickerstaff when we had three bigs. When we had the kid we traded to Utah. Then we had the three bigs, and people thought, oh, it's not going to work. And we watched Markinson, Allen, and Mobley with DG minus Mitchell. Mm-hmm. So imagine if those three if Markinson would have stayed and we added Mitchell, that'd have been something to see. You know, but you gotta understand your personnel, and every year you can't run the same sets to be successful. I mean, that's fundamental basketball. Yeah. Instead of running the swing plays and the motion offense, do we throw it to the big now and still run the motion offense, and then get the shot off? Or do we run a high pick and roll with both bigs on both sides? So now the defense can't see what we're doing, and we get more legal defensive calls called versus no calls.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that frustrates me about the game. You talk about the offensive sets when, you know, 4 or 5 seconds on the clock, they call a timeout, they bring everybody together, and it seems like they say, all right, this guy gets the ball, and then just go to work and then jack up whatever shot you want. I mean, that drives me nuts. Again, I can't play at the level that those guys play at. I don't know what it looks like in the locker room or what it looks at practice, but I feel like there's got to be a better plan than that. And I think going through the big man could be a huge advantage. And that's something that I feel like I don't see a ton.
Indiana, the games they lost. I mean, Rick Carlisle, a veteran coach. I like Rick Carlisle, but for some reason, it was like a deer in headlights. Remember, he was just letting them play when he could have got timeouts. He didn't. Mm-hmm. The first game they lost, that out of bounds play. You know, but again, we're sitting here. They're making the money, but again, you're only good as your assistant coaches are as a head coach. And that's, I mean, you can Google in any sport, all these coaches with these multiple championships. I mean, period. But fundamental basketball will never change. It shouldn't change. Even with the way, you know, they made the game more better for the perimeter players, but it still should be fundamentals. Some teams run a good pick and roll. Some teams run terrible pick and rolls. Some teams run, they shooters off rubs and picks and picks, but some teams don't. Cavaliers, you brought in a shooter, Struts. You brought a shooter in from Miami. So take the tapes from Miami, watch what he did there to be successful. Then you bring him here. He should have been getting 15 to 20 shots with no problem. He was getting less than 10 shots a game sometimes, missing in action. And then you got him defending the best player. Come on, man. So, how do you destroy a shooter? You attack him defensively. But you put him on some questionable offensive players that he couldn't stop. And I'm not bashing Bickerstaff, but again, that's coaching. Somebody's got to say, hey, coach, that ain't working. We got to run some screens, some pick and rolls, and get some shots off. Mm-hmm. So now we coachless. We don't have a coach right now.
So let's wrap up here, Greg. So people can, they're interested in this conversation. They can go, reach out to us, T3 Performance at Beachwood at University Hospital's Ahuja Medical Center in the Drzezinski Sports Medicine Institute. There we go. Now it just rolls off my lips, right? And that's how they can link up with you. So what can parents expect from, and what athletes can expect too from a training session with you?
Fundamentals. In basketball, I say it again, fundamentals in the game of basketball, keeping it simple, and just watch the joy that your child's going to have when they do come and be part of our family. And I'm excited and looking forward to whomever's listening and watching. Here I am. I'm happy to be a part of the family. Looking forward to running some great programs up there and the partnerships, because it all goes together: conditioning, strength, weightlifting, all of it. And I got another piece that I'm gonna bring too, because I got a couple of dance instructor companies. Athletes. Why should I dance? It's mobility. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have no rhythm, just like the movie Rocky, when they say, when Apollo's like, hey, Rocky, you got to chase the chicken to get some rhythm so you can move a little bit better, in the boxing ring to be a better athlete. That's development, right? And it's the mindset over the matter. So whether you athletes that think you can't dance, you're going to learn how to have proper footwork. You're going to understand the spaces of attacking defensively and offensively. And you're going to know how to have balance when you take a shot straight up, straight down, power layup, finish layup. All those things is going to be exciting to do. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. So you got on the sign behind you your phone number, emails on there. Where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out and chat with you?
Oh, I just switched some things up, and I will, unfortunately, GBell, I think on social media, Instagram at GBell34. Mm-hmm. And then if you Google my name, it'll take you to my Instagram and Facebook as well.
Yeah, if you Google Greg Bell basketball, you're gonna find a lot of stuff that you like to that you're gonna want to look into and check out. So, Greg, thanks so much, man, for being on the podcast today. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. We ask you to do 3 things at the end of every podcast, and we'll continue to ask you to do those things. So, 1, please continue to practice gratitude. We think that's so important to live your life with gratitude. Number 2, tell the people that you love them. And number 3, you got one life to live. Might as well live it stimulated. Thank you, everybody, listening to Cutoffs and Coffee, episode 64 with Coach Greg Bell. We'll see you guys all on the basketball court.
See you.